Good morning and welcome to another episode of What's Up with Power. My name is Justin Wagner and I am your host for the show. Today I'll be the presenter as well. We've got some great content. We're going to be talking about power zones, power-based training. What do these different zones mean? How can I interpret all of the different acronyms that I see? So we've got a live ride queuing up here in Zwift here. We're going to start in just over 2 minutes time. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Mixer, live here on Facebook. If you have comments or questions, join us on Facebook and put in your questions. If you're watching on channels other than Facebook, you can get to the Facebook page at www.zwiftlive.com. It'll redirect you to the page. So we're glad to have you here. If you haven't already joined the group ride in the game, you should do so, and we're happy to have you. So the format of the ride is we are going to teach for about 15 minutes, and then we have about 15 minutes of discussion, questions, and answers. So if you have any questions around these different power-based zones, as we go through the teaching, go ahead and ask them, and we'll be more than happy to answer them when we get to that section of the ride. Or if I see them during and it makes sense, we may also step aside to answer them then. So 1 minute left till we roll out. Got some people joining us here on the live stream. We got Eric Denning joining us. We got 9 people in the game. And so today's topic, we're continuing through the book Training and Racing with the Power Meter by Hunter Allen and Andrew Coggin. It's a great resource. If you don't have it, highly suggest you do get it. It's a great resource for understanding just the different basics of training with power. Just having a power meter is not, there's a lot more to it than just that. So that's what we aim in this show and ride, to help you understand those basics, so that you can take your training to the next level, get to the next step. So 10 seconds left to our group ride. We are going to be going at 1.5, 1.8. Give me a second to type to the game once I get going here. Okay, got that going, and I'm going to switch over here. Slides. Okay, so what do we got going here? Using power for optimal workouts. So basically, now that we got a power meter, we've determined our power, our functional threshold power. We've talked about this in weeks previous. Talked about the importance of collecting the data. Now it comes down to, okay, so what am I going to do proactively? How am I going to train and do workouts based on this information? If you just get a power meter and you continue training the way you've always trained, you're going to get the same results. You're going to have different numbers to look at. That's not the end game. The end game is to change the way you train to get to the next level. So what are some of the different, we're going to talk about some of the training opportunities when you use a power meter, talk about what it means for the stochastic nature of cycling. We'll talk about some guidelines for optimal workouts, and then we'll go through the different zones. We'll talk about standard workouts in those zones, and we'll talk about why those zones exist and what the purpose is and what the targeted physiological change is for those different zones. So One of the best, some good opportunities to do power-based workouts. Obviously, the indoor trainer is one. Flat roads are also good. Time trials, using a power meter to pace your time trial can be beneficial to not going out too hard and finishing correctly. Hill climbs, not blowing up on hill climb, as well as if say you're doing specific interval workouts. Now, one of the things you notice here is we didn't say rolling terrain, and we didn't say downhills, because rolling terrain provides a lot of different resistance. It's really hard to keep a steady pace for a structured power workout when you have terrain that's changing constantly. So that's kind of the key with all these. And that's exactly what the stochastic nature of cycling means. We're talking about the highly variable nature of your wattage. If you first get a power meter outside and you start riding, you'll say, whoa, 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 these numbers are all over the place. How am I supposed to tell anything from it? Jumping here, is jumping there. Well, that's it's the way the power numbers are. They change a lot more rapidly than heart rate will. And you can understand the purpose of that. And like we talked a little bit here, terrain is going to affect your ability to execute specific intervals. Just because that, as the resistance changes, it's really hard to keep that effort constant. All right, so we talk about using a power meter for training, doing intervals, optimal workouts. One of the things that comes, one of the questions that comes up is, well, how many of this given interval am I going to do? And one of the reasons you might pick a specific interval length is, let's say you are training for a race that has a climb that you think in that race is going to take you 3 minutes. So you set out to basically train and improve your 3-minute power for that race. Okay, so you're probably going to want to do intervals of that duration and repeat them over and over. Get better. Well, so here's a chart. You can refer to this later. And basically it says when the percentage and drop number of watts in the third effort. So you do 3 efforts, that's your baseline, and then once later on, if the average power drops below this much percent under that third effort, you should stop, or you're not really going to get much benefit out of it beyond that. Now, I mean a couple things. May mean you may go this far, or the point here is with the power meter, you can have this precise of information to know exactly when you should stop doing intervals. If you just can't put out the power anymore and you're only doing half the wattage, that's not going to make the change in your body that you're looking for. So at that point, you should stop the workout. It's not giving you the benefit you're looking for. So here's an example of a VO2 max workout. This is 5 by 5 minutes at VO2 max. This person's third set average power was 320. So this is saying, look, based on the chart, if they go below an average of 304 on any of the subsequent ones, that's probably time to stop. Well, they did 309, 315. So in this, we would say, athlete, had they had time to do more or needed to do more, they could have done more and probably still benefited from it. So they didn't exactly go to exhaustion. Okay, not every workout has to be to exhaustion, but for the purposes of understanding what the formula is you might follow to do an interval workout to exhaustion, there you go. All right, so now we're going to kind of go through the different zones. We're going to talk about the different stereotypical workouts you'll see for these different power zones. And so the duration of these is going to be kind of targeted towards category 3 racer. That's what, as they come out of the book. You may need to adapt them shorter or longer, but you'll see the point. Good to have them all in the same category as we go through here. So first one, we've all heard of this, active recovery. See the people's Strava posts, they tag it active recovery and they have 10 KOMs. Well, you know, unless they just made those segments that day, or unless they're Chris Froome and their active recovery is above most of our FTP. So the point I'm making the joke there that, you know, a lot of us don't really know how to do active recovery. It's hard to really go, as we say on the slide here, embarrassingly slow, because it is. You're basically doing less, 55% or less of your FTP. Okay, so it's not very much. And what does that do? Well, it's not building muscle per se. It's not training specific zone. What it is doing is getting blood flow through the muscles, pull in new fresh blood, and replenish everything that you basically drained out of your muscles. So that's the purpose of active recovery, is to flush it out. So you'll probably notice if you watch the tour, see like Chris Froome, for example, in the tour, he would get on the trainer straight away and just start spinning his legs out. So he was probably looking at active recovery just to get the blood flowing through his legs to help the muscles recover. Clear lactic acid. So this, a lot of times you'll see people do this the day after a big event, or maybe in the middle of a big training block. They'll do half the block, and they'll take a day for active recovery, zoom the block just so that they don't go too deep into fatigue. So again, it's embarrassingly slow, and honestly, doing this outside may be very difficult because you get motivated by a lot of things. So it takes some dedication to really stick to that level and not go above it. All right, so now go up a zone to level 2 endurance. So what is the level 2 endurance doing for us? It's developing an overall increase in stamina. So fatigue resistance. You basically want to be able to last for a really long time, 4 or 5 hours. You're building the stamina to last for those long century rides, longer than century, whatever it may be. This is basically, it's helping your body last longer and even recover better after you do hard efforts and you're still going. So here you go, warm up and cool down. So this is saying you're gonna be doing basically 2 to 3 hours at around 70 to 75% of your FTP. So that would be considered an endurance workout. So just keep that same wattage. It's going to be not going to be particularly taxing. The point here is to keep it going to the point when you start to feel your body, you know, you'll reach a point where you feel like, man, this is just getting monotonous, or you're just getting tired. And as you push through that and keep going to the end, that's where you know your body's really pushing through and building stamina. And it should get easier as time goes on. You may increase the length of your zone 2 workout as the shorter durations become easier. And a lot of times you'll also see the zone 2 workout where they'll throw in like an 8-second long sprint every about 10 minutes, just to change things up, keep the legs working, keep them moving. It's not too monotonous, and so you're not building up saddle sores. You're not sitting the whole time in the same position. All right, let's move up one. So tempo. Now I want to say that you know, tempo is kind of this place. It's I wouldn't say it's probably where we would spend the most of our training time if we were not using a power meter and just kind of going out and riding. We're probably going to end up in tempo. And honestly, we'll see later in the charts, tempo is not a particularly beneficial zone to ride in terms of physiological change in your body. But let's say if you can hold tempo continuously for 2 hours, so this is 76 to 90% of your FTP, That's gonna be a solid workout. It's gonna be hard. It's definitely gonna drain you. I mean, if you're doing shorter, if you're just out doing bursts on the road and you're holding, tempo for short amounts of time, that's not gonna be a huge benefit. But if you're gonna stick it for a long period of time, that's definitely gonna build you up for like a good hard century. Have you have the endurance from your zone 2 workouts, and this will basically help you have a little top end. Now, I wouldn't say I get too hung up on tempo here. I'd say tempo is probably the least prescribed of all the zones for workouts. And we'll see why. So, next one up, called sweet spot. Why on earth do we call it sweet spot? If you're doing the workout, you won't think it's sweet spot. You'll think this is just right on the edge of being uncomfortable. This is just a little bit too painful. Okay, well, where did the term sweet spot come from? So here we go. We have a little chart here we're going to talk about. Give me a second to take a drink. Have a few curves. So the colors and the vertical bands represent the different training zones. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sweet spot is the green L3. It looks like basically, yeah. So anyways, the point here is this chart, this line that starts really high, starts to go down. This is the maximum duration that you'll be able to hold one of these workouts. So obviously, as zones go higher, the time that you can hold it increases, right? You can't hold the sprint for 10 minutes. It doesn't make sense. But, a second here. Okay, so that's how long you can hold it. Now, this curve that goes up, down, represents basically the effect in increase in your threshold power. So, as we talked about up here, down here in active recovery, you're not helping improve threshold power. You're helping it a little bit more as you get up into these percentages of FTP. Then what you notice here is you start to get a peak. So actually, as you go above level 4, this is interesting, you aren't actually improving your threshold power. So VO2 and sprints won't improve your threshold. They will improve VO2, they will improve sprints, but not threshold. And lastly, this curve here shows basically how much toll it's going to take on the body to do these kind of workouts. Active recovery, as we expect, not a whole lot. Sprints hurt. And they definitely improve sprinting power, but they don't necessarily give you that return for threshold power. So this is what they call the sweet spot of improving your threshold. Improving your threshold is kind of like they say, a rising tide raises all ships. So having a good threshold power will help you stay in the pack longer to be able to release your sprints or just recover faster. So that's why you focus so much on threshold. So this sweet spot training is basically where you get the most bang for your buck. You can do a lot of volume, a lot of increase without incurring undue amounts of physiological strain. So that's why they call it sweet spot training. Okay, so what does one of those look like? Well, they end up looking a lot like what you would see for a typical threshold workout. They just do them at a bit lower percentage. I have seen somebody do as much as 40 minutes at sweet spot. Sweet spot here, we're talking 88 to 94% FTP. You got to warm up and cool down. They're basically going to do up to a 20-minute interval for Cat 3. There's definitely benefit as well to doing shorter than 20 minutes. Again, these are kind of targeted at a Cat 3 road racer. but you get the point here. And so this is a good one. You could repeat this one day in and day out and get a whole lot of bang for your buck in terms of increased FTP. Threshold. Okay, so what's interesting here is we didn't change the overall structure, except we made the 2x20 section harder. So what's here? So sure, we are going to get more increase in our threshold from this workout, but the cost this comes from is it's going to require more recovery in between, and so that's going to basically take a burden on the overall volume. You could probably prescribe SST type workouts for your level several days in a row. FTP workouts several days in a row, not so much. It's going to definitely take a much bigger toll on your body. So that's these workouts would look like. Okay, some of the other workouts. So VO2 max. This is just above your threshold, 110 to 120% FTP. These are ones where you're not going to be able to breathe a whole lot. So this is really going to help you for if you want to establish a breakaway. That's basically a VO2 max effort. And so you'll see workouts with varying intervals around this duration. If the interval is somewhere in here, most likely a VO2 max interval. And FTP is going to be, or the interval is going to be somewhere around 110 to 120% FTP. So it's going to hurt. It's going to be over your threshold, and you're going to build up lactic acid in your muscles as you complete those intervals. All right, and so anaerobic capacity, even more FTP, shorter intervals. Again, that's maybe even 6 is a better, depending on the type of race, maybe more realistic breakaway initiation scenario. And then 7 sprints. So you're doing 10 seconds or under, as many watts as you can do. You're just going to repeat those, and you'll see you'll have some rest time, but over and over and over. And the thing there is just as you do more, you'll be able to sustain them longer as well as get the higher power. So, but again, level 7, as you remember from that chart back here, it's going to have quite a bit of physiological strain. Not going to give you much return in your threshold power. So be aware of that. Every workout has a purpose, and that purpose should be tied directly to your training plan. This is a lot of what a coach will do for you. You will, he'll know and understand your goals. He'll know your weaknesses. And he'll pick workouts from these zones to help you build towards that goal. So, actually, we talk quite a bit about coaches, getting coaches, what a coach can do for you. And so, on August 30th, actually, we're going to have a special session where we're going to bring in a coach and somebody who has recently brought on said coach to basically answer any question we want around what is it like to have a coach. I know many of us haven't had a coach before, bit of a curtain, we're not sure what to expect. We've got all sorts of dumb questions we want to ask. Well, this is the perfect time and place. So it's going to be August 30th here on the show, Wednesday, 6:30 a.m. Pacific, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So definitely want to check that one out. We'll be posting about it more in the social media channels as it gets closer. I want to give you a heads up. So if you have questions, curiosities, it's a great time to ask those. So we are an announcement here that the Team ODZ kit is available to order. Order is closing soon on the 11th of August. So if you're looking to get your kit, make that order quickly. We've got socks, gloves, we got a mountain bike jersey out there, and Dan Remo's got this is the most amount of items we've offered before, and it's so this order deadline ends August 11th. So if you haven't gotten that in already, do so. Those socks, gloves are pretty sick. Okay, so we will move to the question and answer section. If anyone has any questions in the training zones, feel free to ask questions about the kit, questions about the show in general. We'll leave it open for a few minutes. See what questions we have. And while we're waiting for that, I just want to give a quick shout out to Training Peaks. If you use Training Peaks, you enjoy their software, they're a sponsor of the show. They've offered viewers of the show a 20% discount on their premium services. So if you enter in the code ODZ20, ODZ20 checkout, you get 20% off premium services. And that's really appreciate their support of the show, bringing us the quality coaches like Taylor Thomas and Nate Dunn. They give us such great content, and so that's helpful to you. We're glad to be able to provide that. I also want to give a shout out to different shows we have on here on Zwift Live by ODZ through the week. So later on Wednesday we have the Skills and Drills ride. So what's interesting about this ride is we have Ian Murray from Evil Elf Coaching comes and basically gives a live interactive workout teaching the principles of different road racing strategy. Breakaways, shutting down, bringing back the breakaway, whatever. So sprinting, lead outs. So you guys are great lessons on these topics. 3:30 Pacific or 6:30 Eastern in the evening today. So check that out later today. Hop on in Zwift and on Discord to hear the instructions and interact with Ian. It's great. A great event. Also, you may have noticed earlier this morning we had Mitch Dengerbond leading the ODZ coffee ride. That's targeted a lot of our Eastern time zone, Eastern early morning folks. Starts at 5:30 a.m. Eastern or 2:30 a.m. Pacific. So for any of you insomniacs who just can't fall asleep at 2:30 a.m. and looking to get a ride in, there you go. That one's free on the Pacific Coast. But we also have tomorrow morning, we have the Wagner's Wagon. It's another ride that I lead where we do a Zone 2 workout. Now I'm going to put a bit of a disclaimer on there that it's a Zone 2 workout for a fairly advanced racer. It's 3 hours long, but a lot of people can come in and join for, say, an hour or and a half. We also do a lot of times have groups at a bit of a slower pace. So the point is, it's 3 hours long. We all join, chat on Discord, and do our endurance workouts. Whether or not we're together as a pack in the actual game is not as important. We can chat and talk and help get through that time. So that's Wagner's Wagon. That starts at 4:15 a.m. Pacific or 7:15 a.m. Eastern. So that's not on. We don't broadcast that. So not sure you'd want to watch 3 hours of us shooting the breeze. It is put over on Mixer if you do want to watch there, but not here on the Facebook page. Okay, what else we got? Friday mornings, we've got the In the Feed Zone from Jason Flores. Great topics on nutrition, hydration, all the different food questions you have. Take those to Jason. He gives great presentations on them. And yeah, so with that, don't have questions coming in here. We appreciate everyone coming out. We'll keep the ride going here in the game, but without any questions, I'm going to go ahead and take down the live stream. Say thank you once again for coming. We hope you've enjoyed the content. Hope you enjoyed the page. Like it, share it with your friends. This content's here for you. We appreciate having you. So I will bring this down and say until next time. Thanks, folks.